I'm Dr. Salim Mohammed, a senior consultant physician who's based in Doha, and now I'm in Trivandrum during this COVID pandemic situation. So I would like to give you a presentation on the COVID-19 response. Clinical course of COVID-19 is always predictable. It is 2 to 11 days after exposure. Day 5 on an average, flu-like symptoms develop. Commonly, there's fever, headache, dry cough, myalgia, nausea without vomiting, abdominal discomfort with some diarrhea, loss of smell, anorexia, and fatigue. Day 5 of symptoms increase shortness of breath. There may be bilateral viral pneumonia from the direct viral damage to the lung parenchyma. Or coming to day 10, the patient might be going into a cytokine storm, leading to acute respiratory distress syndrome and multi-organ failure. You can literally watch this happening if you are observing the patient from day 1. 81% of the patient affected, they have mild symptoms. 14% with severe symptoms, they require hospitalization, and only 5% they go to the critical. The patient presentation can be varied. They can come in an hypoxic situation, like 75% sometimes, and even sometimes without dyspnea. I have seen patients, COVID patients, going into this before respiratory failure with low PO2, and whom at least around 100 cases I had to refer to for advanced medical care to the government hospitals in Qatar. Coming to the situations now prevailing in India, we would like to highlight the variants which are becoming, and this is appearing after the vaccination started. The situation now, a lot depends on the evolution of the virus itself, and now the ability of the vaccine to keep up with the variants. It also depends on the duration of the protective immunity of these vaccines. A lot of this is changing now. We know that there will be definitely an acute phase of this pandemic. There will be an end to this. But we have to get vaccinated at least 30% of the world's population, which is what we should achieve, at least by the end of 2021. Then we can say that there will be a reduction of the death and mortality. And then in that case, if we are able to cover, then 2022, we can ramp up the vaccination. Regarding treatment protocols, the wrong drug at the wrong time could actually have the bad effects than good. Many of the drugs commonly used do not have any benefits. So far, we have only one drug that has got a big impact on mortality, and that is steroids. Steroids usually given is dexamethasone. It only has an impact when it is given to people who are in the hospital receiving oxygen. It's given at a stage of disease when there is inflammation, and that is to preventing oxygen from flowing to the lungs, and it is given to reduce the inflammation. It is important for people to understand that the wrong drug given at the wrong time can actually have more bad effects than good. Many of the drugs commonly used, like doxycycline, azithromycin, and ivermectin, have not been shown to have any effect or any useful effects. WHO has provided a recommendation against the use of ivermectin except in clinical trials, and also against the use of remdesivir and hydroxychloroquine, lopinavir. Countries are in need. They have to develop a national treatment guidelines that are evidence-based, which are frequently updated and should be context-specific for each country. We know that there are the variants B1617 is definitely more transmissible at least 1.5 times, 2 times more than the original strain. It is even more transmissible than the B117, that's which is a UK variant, which was identified in UK, and which had its at one point become the predominant strain variant in India. Now it's replaced by the B1617. So far, the WHO has 4 variants of concern. The latest being the B1617, now which is found in 50 countries worldwide. Now there are sublineages too that have been described. The B1617 itself has been divided into different strains, each of them having a slight different set of mutations with slightly different properties. There is preliminary data that it has got a reduction in the vaccine neutralizing antibody activity in a lab study. Coming to the other variants, N, which is found in Telangana and in the Telugu region, which is it's also very mutant and 10 times more fast spreading. We need the data on the clinical profile of these patients, epidemiology and transmission of these new variants after this vaccination with either Covishield or Covaxin or any other vaccine. We need data on these people who received the vaccine and have been followed up for a period of time to look for the breakthrough infections and what are the rate and pattern. We need to say the rate at which they are occurring and whether the people are really getting ill or just getting only mild infections after vaccination. For the public, it doesn't matter what variant it is. It is still behaving in the same way and having the same effect on people. A particular variant may be more transmissible, which is what we are seeing in India today. So we can prevent it if the opportunity to spread. So people have to do the same things. That is wearing mask, avoiding crowds, avoiding meetings and avoiding indoor meetings, maintaining a physical distance as far as possible and following a basic hygiene. So principles of public health and personal protection have not changed at all. So we need to have the same things, especially when community transmission is happening at such a high grade. As per the current knowledge, vaccines available in India are highly effective against the new strain, but none of the vaccines offer 100% protection in any part of the world. But vast majority of people who receive 2 doses will be protected against severe disease that needs admission to ICU. Vaccines are providing a good amount of protection to these people. Coming to the at this stage of pandemic, this very acute and difficult phase, we have to focus on how to get through the next 6 to 18 months, which will be most difficult. A lot will depend on the evolution of the virus itself, the ability of the vaccine to keep up with the variants, and on the duration of the protective immunity of these vaccines. At this point, it's hard to predict the long term what is in store for us. Coming to the black fungus, which is worrying everybody now, especially the black fungus, that is the mucormycosis, is called rhino-orbitocerebral cerebral mucormycosis. Generally starts in the nose and may progress to the eye and the brain. Early detection at this stage can enable early detection, minimize the complications. But headache and nasal obstruction is if persistent or severe and not responding to the medications, normal medications. Then if there is a nasal crusting and nasal discharge, which could be a brownish and blood tinged, pain or loss of sensation on the face, discoloration of the skin of the face, localized facial face puffiness of the face, then loosening of the teeth and discoloration of the ulceration of the palate. Eye orbital mucor infection is moderately severe. Infection can occur sometimes. Eye can swelling can come, redness with double vision, loss of vision, and eye pain with drooping of the eyelids. The patient presentation are varied. Patients can come in hypoxic without dyspnea, sometimes with dyspnea. I have seen patients presenting with sometimes encephalopathy, renal failing, dehydration, or diabetic ketoacidosis. Most of them, many patients whom we have referred to the COVID hospitals, they have bilateral interstitial pneumonia on X-ray, and especially sometimes they have other cardiac involvements, sometimes seen like myocarditis, pericarditis, or even new onset atrial fibrillation. We can order a troponin, but no matter whatever the value, no cardiologist is going to intervene at this time because most of them are treated with other other measures. In diagnosis, the X-ray is most important, followed by the blood counts from the laboratory. Usually the WBCs are low or maybe raised. Lymphocytes are low, or platelets may become lower than normal. Procalcitonin can be normal in 90%. CRP and ferritin elevated most often. Coming to CPK, D-dimer, LDH, alkaline phosphatase, AST and ALT, they are commonly elevated. Coming to D-dimer, it's important. You have to be careful. Watch it every alternate days and see their levels going up or down. And even elevated CRP and ferritin, you have to monitor alternate days. And if there is what can predict a poor outcome is if there is a ratio of a absolute neutrophil count to absolute lymphocyte count greater than 3.5 may be a highest predictor of poor outcome of the patient. Elevated IL-6 is an indicator of the cytokine storm. If this is elevated, you have to watch with our open eyes, close watch, and predict poor outcome. Of course, sometimes if there is the lack of beds, it's very difficult to decide which to be intubated and which to be extubated. Luckily, We are not yet out of beds in Kerala, but other states are facing acute bed crisis and oxygen shortage. So we have to prepare ourselves for the worst, for the second wave to end, and to prepare for the third wave. Anyway, hoping for better response from all our medical team and better decisions regarding vaccinations from the governments. Thank you very much.